Hello, and welcome to the Tri-State Steelheaders Salmon and School Education Series. My name is Brock, and I am one of the environmental educators with the Salmon and School program. I am joined here by my buddy Mikio.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mikio. I'm a sophomore here at Whitman College, and I'm an education intern for the Tri-State Steelheaders.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about salmon and trout anatomy. Anatomy is just a body. It is our hands, our feet, our eyes, our mouth, our ears, our organs, everything about our body. And clearly, salmon and trout also have an anatomy. They have a body. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit today. Before we get into the real nitty-gritty science of it, we're going to say why we're talking about anatomy. First off, we need to know how a body functions or how a body is formed to know how it functions. If we don't know the form, the makeup, the structure of a body, we might not know the function of that body. And if we don't know the function of that body, we might not be able to fully understand how that fish, how that organism, that creature functions inside of an ecosystem.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another reason to talk about anatomy is the identification of these species. If we don't know how the body is formed, then we're not going to be able to identify each one of our species of salmon and trout. And if we are an angler, or if we want to become a scientist, or just a educated citizen, we want to know each one of these species.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's get started. We have an awesome diagram here that Brock drew up. He's going to cover himself. But we have 6 fins on a salmon or a trout species, starting with the dorsal fin. The dorsal fin is the fin that goes on the top of the fish. You might have seen this on another big fish or a big animal like a shark. The dorsal fin is the one that sticks out of the water in those scary shark movies. And then adipose fin is this one right here. To be honest, a lot of scientists and biologists don't know exactly what the adipose fin is or what it does for a fish, but people have utilized the adipose fish in a way where if a fish or a trout or a salmon is a hatchery-born fish, meaning that the fish was raised in a fish hatchery, basically a human-raised fish, this fin here is clipped, which means that a fisherman or a commercial fisherman later on in this fish's life, when it gets caught, we can identify whether it's a hatchery-raised fish or not. If it's a wild fish, this fin will be on there. So keep a lookout for that if you ever go fishing and you catch a salmon or a trout. This is the caudal fin. In general, it's just the tail. And then the pectoral fin, this is where it's right up on the chest of the fish, kind of right below its gills here. The pectoral fish can help navigate the fish going left to right. Here we'll have our pelvic fin, which is at the underbelly, underneath kind of the fish. That'll help it kind of go up and down and also help it navigate. And then here, we're going to find its anal fin. That is right below the tail, still kind of on the underside or the belly of the fish, which also helps it kind of act as a rudder for the fish, the rudder of a boat.
Yeah, so those are our fins. Now, we also have the eyes, the mouth, and then these special things right here, the little tiny dot that you can hardly see. Those are called nares, and that is essentially the nose of the fish. Because they don't have a nose that sticks out like you and me. They have just these little tiny holes in the tip of their mouth called nares. Now, something special about their mouth, and if you're in the Salmon and School program, you've probably heard this a million times, but a male salmon will have a hooked upper jaw, and that's called a kype. That kype is used to fight off other males to get towards females during spawning. Females do not have a kype. They have a normal jaw, and their jaw will look a lot like this, just kind of a blunt nose in the front. Yeah. So I think that's everything to do with our external anatomy.
We have one more thing, I think.
We have one more thing.
The gills.
Oh, yes, the gills right here. Those are our gills. So our gills, that's how our fish breathe. You and myself, Mikio, we all have lungs. We can only breathe in the air, but our fish breathe water. Or rather, they breathe the oxygen inside of that water. So these gills are their breathing organs. They have a gill cover, which is called an operculum, which is a really fancy $5 word for you. And that operculum keeps the gills safe, just like we have structures like our ribs and our muscles and our skin that protect our lungs. They have this operculum to protect their gills.
Mhm.
There we go.
Cool. Let's move on to internal.
We'll move on to internal anatomy.
Sweet.
So we'll start out with our first organ on the inside of a fish, and that would be the swim bladder. Now, our swim bladder helps fish control their buoyancy. It helps them control how much they float. So when they're fry, when our salmon or trout are fry, they'll go up to the surface and gulp air, just fill up their swim bladder with air. That way they can float some more, and it saves them energy while swimming.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. All fish, all trout, all salmon have a digestive system, just like you and I, just like Brock and I. Seem like we have a lot of features in common, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
That's weird. We have fish have a digestive system, meaning that any foods they eat, any insects, any crustaceans, maybe shrimp, any food that fish eat goes through a digestive system. They also have gonads, and gonads are a fancy term for organs that biologists or fishermen or scientists can use to identify the gender of a fish, whether it's male or female. In female fish, you might find a really bright orange egg sac, sometimes with eggs in them, if the female is ready to spawn, and you can tell that it's a female. For male fish, you might find a white sac, kind of milky-looking sac, filled with milt, and that's how you know that it's a male. Like Brock said earlier, for males, you can also see if they have a kype or not, that big hook jaw-looking thing over their mouth. To identify if it's a male or a female.
Yeah. So that is our basic anatomy lesson for our salmon and trout. Should we do a quick review?
Totally. Yeah.
Awesome. So why should we care about anatomy? One, the form of a fish, the structure of a fish, the structure of an organism is what informs their function. So if we know about the anatomy of the fish, we can know about how they function and how they might be a part of the ecosystem.
Cool.
Yeah. You want to take that?
Yeah. And then the second thing is that knowing how an organism looks makes it easy for people to identify these fish. So when it comes to fishing, you know what to catch, you know what you're catching, and that's really important for biologists and scientists.
Yeah. And then some special things about our salmon and trout. All fish have a swim bladder, so that's how they control their buoyancy. And then salmon and trout, salmonids, they all have an adipose fin. And if that fin is clipped, we know that it's from a hatchery. If it's on the fish when we catch it, we know that it's a wild fish and that we should probably put it back.
Yeah, cool.
That's our episode for today. Thank you to Whitman for allowing us to use their recording space and their podcasting equipment. And we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.